doing here? This is no place for people like you. Get out of here, you filthy thing!
What you're about to see isn't just a story. It's a clash of realities. An innocent girl, judged by her skin color and her clothes, will prove that a person's worth isn't what they wear, but what they carry in their heart. This story will move you and make you reflect on how we treat those around us. So subscribe to the channel, like it, and comment below where you're watching this video, because what happens next is unforeseen. It was a Saturday afternoon, the sun shining brightly on the windows of the largest shopping mall in Oakfield, a quiet town in the Texas countryside. People hurried along, carrying bags and smiling while the speakers played soft music in the background. Among them, a 13-year-old black girl walked with curious eyes, observing everything around her. Her name was Amelia, and that seemed like an ordinary day. But you know, sometimes fate chooses ordinary days to turn everything upside down. She wore a simple light blue cotton dress and a pair of worn-out sandals. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, and her eyes shone with something no one else seemed to notice: innocence mixed with a deep yearning to belong. As she gazed at a colorful display of toys, Amelia smiled. A pure smile, the kind only someone who has struggled to smile can muster. Little did she know that within minutes that smile would be cruelly tested. Across the aisle, a blonde woman in high heels and expensive clothes watched Amelia with a look that mingled contempt and judgment. You know, the kind of look that doesn't need words to hurt? Well, that was exactly it. The girl felt the weight of that gaze and lowered her head, trying to shrink into the crowd. Her heart raced without understanding why. And there, in that moment, something inside her began to change, as if the joy she once held had been touched by the shadow of human indifference. The mall, once so lively and full of sounds, seemed to fall silent. Amelia took a deep breath, trying to ignore it, but she felt the lump in her throat grow. She didn't know that meanwhile the man who loved her most in the world was approaching, walking between the stores with firm steps and a calm gaze. A man whose name was known throughout the city, and who, in a few moments, would remind the entire place of the true meaning of respect. The sound of Amelia's footsteps echoed through the bright hallways, mixed with the clink of coins dropping into soda machines and the distant laughter of other children. But to her, everything seemed muffled, as if the world had deliberately turned down its volume. The blonde woman approached slowly, her chin lifted in that cold smile that felt more like a warning. "Girl, this place isn't for you," she said, her voice as soft as it was venomous. And it was there, in that short sentence, that Amelia's heart broke a little. She tried to respond, but no words came. Her face flushed, her eyes welled up. You know when you feel like everyone's watching, even when no one is? That's how she felt, like she'd become a blunder in the landscape. A few people nearby heard her but chose to look away, pretending they hadn't seen anything. The silence that fell was crueler than any scream, and Amelia, trying to hold her ground, simply whispered, "I'm sorry, ma'am," as if she'd done something wrong simply by existing. The woman crossed her arms, looked her up and down, and let out a short, mocking laugh. "Those cheap clothes, where do you think you are, girl? This isn't a thrift store." Her tone was contemptuous, and each word fell like a stone. A confused security guard watched from afar, unsure whether to intervene or not. And Amelia's look, once curious, was now all fear and shame. She wanted to run but stood still, as if the ground had stuck to her feet. Meanwhile, a tall man wearing a hat and boots soiled with dirt approached unnoticed. His expression was calm, almost serene, but anyone who knew him knew that when that look turned serious, something important was about to happen. He watched from afar, trying to understand what was happening, and when he saw the tears streaming down his daughter's face, he felt something deep inside that no amount of money, no farm, and no county title could quell. Before that Saturday at the mall, Amelia's life was simple but full of love. She lived on a sprawling farm, surrounded by golden fields and a sky so blue it seemed hand-painted. The main house was old, with light wood and large windows that let in the breeze. There, everything had a calm rhythm: the sound of horses, the smell of freshly brewed coffee, and the distant sound of a radio playing oldies. It was in this setting that Amelia learned what peace was, and what it meant to be truly loved. Your father, William Hargrove, was known throughout Texas as a man of his word, a landowner, but with a simple heart. Tall, with gray hair and a serene gaze, he had a way of speaking that calmed even the wind. Everyone respected him, but few knew how much he valued what money could never buy. When he met Amelia at a shelter in a neighboring town, he said he didn't choose her out of pity, but because he felt she was already part of the family. Even before she walked through the door, Amelia, with her curly hair and deep eyes, brought life to that home. William taught her to ride horses, care for animals, and listen to the sounds of nature. On warm afternoons, they would sit on the porch to talk about life, the sky, and what truly mattered. "Daughter, never forget," he would say. "No one is better than anyone else, and a person's worth lies in what they carry inside," pointing to his chest. Amelia smiled, never imagining how much more meaningful that phrase would become in the future. Back then, she believed the world was fair, that people saw hearts before skin color. And in a way, William believed that too, until that day at the mall when he saw prejudice up close, touching the very thing he loved most. And maybe, just maybe, fate had prepared that pain so they could both learn something that not even life in the countryside had yet managed to teach. The farm Silver Valley, it was just a few miles from Oakfield, surrounded by green hills and a river that sliced through the countryside like a silver ribbon. The wind smelled of wet earth and freedom, and the days passed with a calm rhythm, marked by birdsong and the distant lowing of cattle. It was the kind of place where the soul rested, where the silence didn't frighten, it soothed. Amelia loved every bit of it. She ran barefoot across the lawn, laughed out loud, and felt that no one saw her differently. No one judged her. Silver Valley was her refuge. William, Amelia's father, would start his day before sunrise. He'd put on his straw hat and worn boots and head out to tend the animals. Despite being one of the richest men in Texas, he never let money keep him from simplicity. "Daughter, the land doesn't respect those who don't put their hands on it," he would say as he gathered bales of hay. And Amelia, with that curious look, learned that greatness didn't come from pocketbooks but from character. On that farm, humility was the law. The Silver Valley employees quickly became enchanted with Amelia. At first, some were surprised to see a black girl running through the main yard of Old Man Hargrove's farm. But her smile was enough to break down any barriers. She helped with chores, fed the calves, picked flowers for dinner, and called each one by name. Over time, she became the heart of the farm. Wherever she went, the day seemed to lighten. At night, she and William would sit on the wooden porch, gazing at the star-filled sky. The sound of crickets provided the perfect backdrop for conversations about life, faith, and dreams. Amelia dreamed of seeing the world beyond the gates of Silver Valley, the illuminated streets, the shops, the people. And little did she know that this innocent dream would lead her to one of the most defining moments of her life. William Hargrove wasn't just the owner of Silver Valley. He was practically a living legend in Oakfield. A man who, even with so much power and influence, still greeted everyone on the street with a genuine smile and a heartfelt, "Good morning." He was around 55 years old, with neatly combed gray hair, a neatly trimmed beard, and a firm yet calm gaze. When I walked into a place, the atmosphere changed. Not because of his money, but because of his presence. He was the kind of man who commanded respect without raising his voice. People said William had it all: land, employees, modern machinery, even a helicopter to fly over the fields. But those who truly knew him knew that what he valued most was character. He always said, "Wealth without kindness is just vanity, my dear." And for that, everyone admired him. He donated part of his harvest to needy families, helped the local church, and made a point of visiting local public schools. He was the kind of man who taught more by example than by speeches. When he decided to adopt Amelia, there were whispers on street corners saying he was just trying to show off. But William never cared. "Those who judge what they don't understand reveal more about themselves than about the other person," he would say as he filled out the adoption papers. From day one, he treated Amelia like a legitimate daughter. He made a point of taking her everywhere, introducing her as "my girl." And every time he said this, Amelia felt her chest swell with pride. The bond between the two was so strong it seemed to have been born even before they met. William saw in her something reminiscent of his late wife: courage, purity, and a huge heart. And as time passed, the entire town began to realize that this girl wasn't just a farmer's adopted daughter. She was the new source of pride for Silver Valley. But the outside world wasn't ready to see it yet. It was a hot July morning when William's black car pulled up in front of the orphanage. Dallas, the owl. Sun beat down on the hood and reflected in the windows as the old farmer slowly descended, adjusting his hat. Inside the building, the sound of children playing filled the air, but he was looking for only one, the girl with the big eyes and quiet gaze he'd seen in a photo. As the principal led him to her, something happened, as if time stood still for a moment. William bent down, looked into the girl's eyes and said, "Hi, Amelia. Can I take you home?" She didn't answer right away. She clutched an old doll with its hair frayed, watching the tall, strange man smile at her. She was afraid, of course. No one had ever looked at her like that before. But at the same time, there was something different in that look. A kind of security she couldn't explain. So without saying anything, she stepped forward and held out her hand. William smiled and held it tightly. It was there, in that simple gesture, that a new story began. On the way back, Amelia stared out the car window, watching the world speed past, houses, crops, endless roads. The wind ruffled her hair and her heart pounded, torn between fear and hope. William, at the wheel, tried to break the silence with a light tone. "You'll like Silver Valley. It has horses, huge trees, and a balcony where you can see the stars." And Amelia just nodded with a shy smile, committing the name to memory like someone memorizing the sound of a new home. When they arrived, the servants gathered in front of the house to welcome the girl. Some looked curious, others excited. William came down, opened the door, and said, "Everyone, this is my daughter." And the firm way he said it put an end to any doubts. Amelia looked out at the golden horizon of the farm and, for the first time in a long time, felt that the world could, indeed, be a beautiful place to live. In her first days in Silver Valley, Amelia explored every corner like a treasure map. There were sheds, barns, an orchard, and a huge garden that she promised to tend with great care. Every step she took brought a smile to William's face, who watched her from afar, satisfied. "This place will be your refuge, daughter. Here, no one will judge you for what you have or what you wear," he would say as she ran through the trees, laughing at everything and nothing at the same time. The nights were filled with stories. William told stories about the farm's past, how the town had formed, and the ancestors who had tended the land for generations. Amelia, sitting on the porch drinking fresh milk and gazing at the stars, listened intently, absorbing every word. She felt she was being shaped not only by her father's affection, but by his respect for the world. Each story offered a lesson in humility and courage. She began to bond with the animals, helping feed the calves and learning to milk cows. William taught her patiently, always reinforcing that a person's worth isn't measured by what they have, but by what they carry in their heart. Amelia grew up feeling important and loved, gradually discovering that even though she was different from most, she had a place in the world. The love of that home strengthened her, and on sunny days when the wind blew through the fields and the scent of hay wafted through, Amelia discovered that life could be light, even after so much suffering. She laughed, ran, and dreamed without fear. Little did she know that that dream would be tested in a painful and unexpected way, back in the city, in a place that seemed safe but held a lesson no one could teach better than life itself. William always said that what he saw in Amelia wasn't her skin color or her simple clothes. He saw courage, intelligence, and love. To him, those qualities were far more important than any luxury money could buy. And Amelia, sitting beside him on the porch or helping in the garden, learned that life is measured by the respect we give others, not by the judgment we receive. His heart was the compass that guided her every move. At lunches, dinners, and even during daily tasks, William reinforced values few taught: humility, kindness, and empathy. "Daughter, never let anyone make you feel inferior, but also never forget that no one is inferior for starting from the bottom," he would say, smiling as he put food on her plate. Amelia absorbed everything even without realizing it, building a solid foundation that would be tested sooner than she imagined. Every step away from the farm showed her that the world could be different. William took her to town, to the markets, to the bank, showing her that respect couldn't be bought. He treated everyone equally, and Amelia learned that words and looks could hurt, but the true love healed any wound. Her father was a living example that character is greater than inheritance, and although life in Silver Valley was peaceful, Amelia felt a tinge of curiosity about what the town held. She knew that one day she would face situations beyond the farm's reach, that the world outside was more complex. But in that moment, with her father by her side, she felt safe, protected, and loved, and nothing, not even what was to come, could erase that. It was a sunny autumn Friday when William suggested, "Amelia, how about we go to the mall tomorrow? I want to show you some cool shops and get some ice cream at that ice cream shop you love." She jumped for joy, imagining the smell of popcorn, the sparkle of the windows, and the joyful sounds of children running through the aisles. For her, leaving the farm and exploring the city was exciting, even though she knew it might be different from Silver Valley. The next day, she wore her best simple dress, lilac with small white details, and her favorite sandals. Her hair was tied back in 2 neat braids, and a smile lit up her face. William looked at her and said, "Perfect, daughter. You don't have to change a thing for anyone." Amelia felt confident, believing that with him by her side, nothing could hurt her. The mall was bustling, filled with families and teenagers laughing, shopping for clothes and eating fast food. Amelia walked hand in hand with William, exploring each store with genuine curiosity. She wanted to touch things, ask about every detail, but still felt a subtle anxiety, that sense that the world outside the farm could be both beautiful and cruel. And it was in this atmosphere of anticipation and innocence that Amelia barely noticed the glances of some people. So different from the warmth she'd felt in Silver Valley, a premonition began to grow in her chest, a subtle discomfort that still had no name but was about to reveal itself painfully. The outing that promised to be just fun held a lesson that no one could teach better than experience itself. Amelia walked between the shops with a smile that seemed to light up the aisles. Her simple lilac dress swayed in the wind, blowing through the automatic doors, and her sandals tapped lightly on the marble floor. She stopped to gaze at each window display, pointing and commenting to William about toys, books, and colorful clothes. It was pure curiosity and joy, that mixture of innocence and enthusiasm that only a child who feels loved can possess. Meanwhile, some customers cast discreet glances, some curious, others silently judging. Amelia didn't understand the reason for their discomfort. She just smiled and spoke loudly, full of life. "Look, Dad, that backpack is huge." William kept pace with his daughter, laughing with her, proud and wanting to shield her from any shadows that might try to darken the moment. She seemed to float through the hallways, but at the same time, small sparks of negative attention began to ignite. The blonde, who had been watching from afar, crossed her arms and frowned. Amelia's every step seemed to bother her more, and the girl's sincere smile, which to William was light, to the woman was cause for contempt. Amelia still didn't understand what was coming. Her innocent happiness still dominated the scene. And as the girl laughed and pointed to a display case full of teddy bears, William sensed a tension in the air, something that made him look around more closely. He didn't know it yet, but that afternoon was about to turn into a test of character and patience, not only for Amelia, but for everyone present in that brightly lit mall corridor. Even before she heard anything, Amelia felt heavy, cold gazes pierce her skin. People nearby paused for a moment, noticing her simple dress and worn sandals, as if that alone were enough to judge her. She tried to ignore it, continuing to explore the shop windows enthusiastically, but the feeling of being watched grew, tightening her chest. William realized what was happening and squeezed her hand lightly, trying to convey reassurance. The blonde woman walked slowly toward Amelia, her heels echoing on the floor, drawing the attention of passers-by. Her gaze was so piercing, it seemed as if she wanted to rip the girl's smile apart. You know that kind of contempt you feel before hearing a word? That was exactly it. Amelia, still innocent, didn't know how to react. She tried to smile, but it began to falter in the face of the growing tension. The previously cheerful and bustling atmosphere seemed to quiet down for that moment. Some customers noticed the situation, looked away or whispered to each other, but no one intervened. Amelia began to feel ashamed, as if she had done something wrong by being there. William, realizing the weight of the situation, took a deep breath, preparing to protect his daughter without causing an unnecessary scene. And then, when the woman finally stood in front of Amelia, crossing her arms and bowing her head slightly, a chill ran through the girl's body. She didn't yet know that the words that were to come would cut deeply, but she also had no idea that her father was about to turn this moment into a lesson no one present would soon forget. The blonde woman leaned in slightly and spoke venomously. "What are you doing here? This is no place for people like you. Get lost, you filthy woman." Amelia's heart raced, and the smile that lit up her face faded in an instant. The words seemed to echo through the halls, sinking in, leaving the girl standing still, unsure how to react. Some people stopped to listen, others looked embarrassed, but no one intervened. Tears began to well up in Amelia's eyes, unable to contain them. She tried to murmur something, but her voice faltered. The weight of the scorn was greater than any explanation. William, watching the scene from a few feet away, felt a mixture of anger and sadness, but he remained calm, knowing he needed to act firmly and lead by example. His gaze met his daughter's, conveying courage without a single word. The woman continued, with that seemingly limitless arrogance, chuckling softly at the situation. "Look, you're even smiling, but you don't seem to have realized you don't belong here." Amelia lowered her head, feeling tiny amidst the gleaming windows. Each word burned more than the last, and humiliation spread silently through the room. The world she knew from the farm seemed distant, almost impossible to reach at that moment. And then, when the pain seemed unbearable, William strode down the hallway with firm, silent, yet powerful steps. He didn't need to raise his voice yet. His presence spoke louder than any warning. Amelia felt that, even in the face of such humiliation, she wasn't alone, and something inside her began to stir, as if she could glimpse that this moment, though painful, would change everything in ways no one there could have imagined. Amelia couldn't hold back the tears. They streamed down her face hot and fast as her chest heaved in silent sobs. Each word the woman said seemed to weigh a ton, making the hallway cold and unwelcoming. People around her looked away uncomfortably, some whispering to each other, but no one dared approach. The girl's cries seemed to cut through the air, spreading pain and silence simultaneously. William approached slowly, unhurriedly, letting Amelia feel the security he exuded, even without saying anything. He placed a firm hand on her shoulder, and with a deep gaze, said softly, "Daughter, I'm here. It's not you, it's the judgment of others that's wrong." That simple statement brought a slight relief, but it still didn't erase the humiliation the outside world insisted on displaying. The blonde woman, surprised by the intervention, swallowed her words for a moment. Arrogance gave way to a slight astonishment, as if she hadn't expected anyone to have the courage to stand up for that girl. But William didn't need harsh words. His firm gaze and presence spoke volumes. He was a protective wall no one could cross. And as Amelia leaned against him, trying to catch her breath and stop crying, the atmosphere in the mall seemed to oscillate between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Passers-by felt something different, as if the scene had stopped time for a moment. And in that emotion-laden silence, William already knew that the next step would be a lesson the blonde woman would never forget. William stepped forward, tall and imposing, but without losing the calm that always characterized him. His gaze met the blonde woman's, and in that instant it seemed the entire world in the mall had stopped to watch. "Ma'am, I think you need to understand something before you speak to any child," he said, his voice firm but without raising his tone. There was something in his manner that made the woman's words seem fragile in his presence. Amelia, her face, still wet with tears, leaned discreetly against her father, feeling protected as never before. William crouched down slightly to her level, conveying security and courage. "Daughter, you don't need to be afraid. No one here can diminish who you are," he said, gently stroking her hair. That simple gesture made Amelia take a deep breath, as if she could finally believe that everything would work out. The blonde woman, now visibly disconcerted, shook her head, unsure of what to say. She began to realize she wasn't just dealing with a defenseless child, but with a respected man, owner of Silver Valley, and with influence throughout the city. The power of his presence, combined with the dignity with which he defended his daughter, caused her pride to silently crumble. And in that hallway, lit by the display windows, with Amelia's tears still echoing, William knew it was time to teach something no one within those walls would ever forget. He didn't want to humiliate anyone, but to show that character and empathy are worth more than any wealth or appearance. And as the tension lingered, something within the blonde woman began to shift, paving the way for a lesson that would touch not only her conscience but the hearts of everyone around her. William kept his gaze steady and said, with a calm that cut through the silence of the mall, "This girl you're judging is my daughter. And before you point fingers or make comments about someone, you should learn to see a person's worth by what they carry in their heart, not by what they wear or the color of their skin." The words echoed between the shop windows, reaching everyone around, including the blonde woman who was speechless. Amelia looked at her father with awe and surprise. She hadn't expected him to expose the truth in such a way, but at the same time she felt a surge of pride and relief. For the first time, she felt she wasn't alone, that she had an invisible shield protecting her worth, her dignity, and her right to be respected. The weight of humiliation began to dissipate, replaced by a warmth of security. The blonde swallowed hard, realizing she had made a grave mistake. Her face flushed and her arrogance turned to shame. She began to painfully understand that wealth and status didn't give her the authority to judge or belittle someone. William was still there, calm, conveying with every gesture that empathy and respect were non-negotiable values. As customers and employees watched the scene unfold, a respectful silence fell. William took Amelia's hand and, with a small smile, said, "Daughter, no one has the right to put you down. Always remember that." And though the moment was tense, there was a subtle sense that something new was about to be born in that mall, a life lesson no one present would ever forget. After the confrontation, the mall seemed to breathe more slowly. Amelia still held her father's hand, feeling the storm had passed, but it had left deep scars on everyone who witnessed the scene. The blonde woman remained silent, her head bowed, absorbing every word William had said. For the first time, she realized that wealth or status could never replace empathy and respect. The silence there said more than any shout or apology could express. Amelia took a deep breath, looking around. The people nearby were still exchanging discreet glances, some surprised, others thoughtful. She felt a mixture of relief and curiosity, relief at having been defended by her father, and curiosity about how this situation would impact the life of the woman who humiliated her. William watched her with a discreet smile, understanding that the heavy silence was fulfilling its purpose, to teach without humiliating. The blonde woman finally looked up, meeting Amelia's gaze. There was something different there, a slow, almost imperceptible yet powerful shift. William knew that moment would be remembered for a long time, not only for the initial humiliation, but for the lesson that silence brought. Sometimes, simply allowing someone to reflect on their own mistake is more impactful than any long speech. And so, on that autumn afternoon, with the sun streaming through the mall's automatic windows, Amelia learned that life often teaches by example, and the silent presence of those we love. She didn't know it yet, but that lesson would mark not only the woman who judged her, but also everyone who witnessed the incident, showing that respect and kindness are greater than any wealth. The blonde woman took a deep breath, feeling for the first time the weight of her own pride melting away. Every word William said echoed in her mind, reminding her that wealth and appearance are never substitutes for character. She began to understand that her actions had not only hurt Amelia, but also revealed her own lack of empathy. A silent regret washed over her, mixed with shame for having judged someone so unfairly. Meanwhile, Amelia still held her father's hand, watching the woman with a mixture of caution and curiosity. She realized that this shame was the beginning of a real change, one that could perhaps transform the woman's heart. William, attentive, maintained a firm and calm demeanor, conveying that forgiveness was possible, but that the lesson needed to be learned. The atmosphere around them seemed lighter, as if everyone who witnessed the scene felt the tension slowly dissipate. Some customers looked on in silence, reflecting on their own actions, realizing that they often judged without understanding. What began as a moment of pain and humiliation was transforming into a collective learning experience. And in that hallway, amidst the display windows and the hurried footsteps of other shoppers, William knew he had planted an important seed. For the first time, his wife felt the need to change, and Amelia began to realize that the world could be different, not because everyone would be good, but because examples like her father's show that respect is greater than any prejudice. William took another step forward, keeping his tone calm and firm. The world doesn't work on money or looks. It works on respect. If you treat someone badly because of the color of their skin or the way they dress, you're choosing to be small. But there's still time to learn that greatness comes from the heart. Amelia watched, absorbing every word, sensing that her father wasn't speaking just to the blonde woman, but to everyone there, including her. The blonde woman began to shrink, realizing she had underestimated a child and ignored fundamental values. Embarrassment took over, but something new also emerged, the understanding that her attitudes could be transformed. William didn't want to humiliate, he wanted to teach. And in that moment, the meaning of love and equality became clear. It wasn't theory, it was practice living right before everyone's eyes. Amelia took a deep breath, feeling proud of her father and comforted by his handling of the situation. She realized that true strength came not from wealth, but from dignity and the courage to protect those we love. William's every gesture conveyed empathy, demonstrating that teaching by example is always more effective than any scolding or reprimand. As the sun reflected off the shop windows, casting golden reflections over everyone there, the blonde woman began to understand that this moment wasn't just about Amelia, but about her life as well. Respect wasn't an option, it was an obligation. And silently, something inside her shifted, a lesson that could transform not just that day, but all the ones that would follow. The blonde woman finally found the courage to speak, her voice low and shaky. I'm truly sorry. I shouldn't have said any of that. Each word seemed to come out with difficulty, as if it had been forced through years of pride and judgment. Amelia watched her carefully, still holding her father's hand, and William remained firm but with a slight encouraging smile. He knew the lesson was sinking in. The silence that followed was profound, charged with reflection. The woman looked around and realized that every eye in the mall was now watching her, not with judgment, but with a silent expectation of change. She took a deep breath, trying to accept responsibility for her own mistakes and understanding that words can hurt, but they can also be healing when accompanied by sincere repentance. Amelia felt something new emerge within her: forgiveness. It wasn't just about accepting the woman's request, but about understanding that the world would be better if everyone had the chance to learn and change. The girl's heart, still vulnerable, began to feel lighter, knowing that justice, empathy, and love were being restored in that mall corridor. William watched, satisfied. He knew that teaching values was more powerful than any harsh reprimand. And in that moment, the atmosphere that had previously been filled with tension and humiliation now breathed learning, empathy, and a subtle sense of hope. What began as pain transformed into reflection, showing that even the most hardened hearts can learn the importance of respect. After the apology, the blonde woman approached Amelia cautiously, hesitating for a few seconds. Amelia looked at her father, who nodded discreetly, conveying permission and reassurance. Then, with a shy gesture, she extended her hand. The woman took a deep breath and hesitantly hugged the girl. It was a short hug, but charged with emotion, as if all the tension and humiliation had been compressed into that moment of reconciliation. Amelia, still feeling the warmth of the embrace, realized that the world could change even if slowly. She felt empathy, not only for what she had experienced, but also for the heart that was willing to learn. William watched with pride, realizing that the example he set not only protected his daughter, but also transformed those who crossed her path. The mall, once a scene of humiliation and judgment, now felt different. Those around them realized they had witnessed something deeper than a simple correction. They had witnessed a life lesson. Even the blonde woman seemed smaller but different, someone who was beginning to understand the importance of humility and respect. And so, in that hallway lit by the shop windows in the reflected autumn sun, a cycle closed. Pain gave way to learning, humiliation to respect, and anger to forgiveness. Amelia felt she could breathe again, knowing that with her father by her side, difficult moments were merely lessons that transformed the world around those willing to learn. After everything that had happened at the mall, William and Amelia returned to Silver Valley, their car slowly traveling along the road lined with golden autumn trees. The wind blew in Amelia's face and she breathed deeply, realizing that this journey wasn't just physical, but also emotional. They were returning to a safe place, where their hearts could rest after the whirlwind. Every curve in the road seemed to reaffirm that even after the pain there was always a home waiting. Amelia stared out the window, taking in the landscape of the farm she loved. The barn, the cows, the flowers in the garden, everything seemed more welcoming than ever. She felt a mixture of relief and gratitude, relief that she had overcome the humiliation with her father's support, gratitude that she had someone who loved her unconditionally. Silver Valley was more than home. It was a safe haven, a place where values and love truly mattered. William watched his daughter silently, pleased with her strength. He knew the lesson at the mall had been difficult but necessary. Returning to the farm wasn't just a physical return, but also a symbolic one. It was a chance to reinforce to Amelia that character, respect, and empathy are greater than any momentary pain. And that, with love and guidance, difficulties can be transformed into learning experiences. When they arrived, the tranquility of the countryside welcomed them with open arms. Amelia ran across the lawns, feeling the ground beneath her bare feet, the smell of hay and the sounds of the animals. Everything seemed to restore peace and reaffirm that even in a world full of judgment and prejudice, family and home were what truly strengthened the heart. And there, in that moment, Amelia realized she could face any future situation with courage and confidence. As night fell over Silver Valley, the farm seemed to embrace Amelia and William with a unique tranquility. In the kitchen, the aroma of roast chicken and fresh bread filled the air, mingled with the wood burning in the fireplace. Amelia helped set the dishes on the table, smiling shyly, feeling that this dinner was not just about food, but also about comfort and reconciliation. The warmth of the fireplace illuminated their faces, creating soft shadows that reinforced the feeling of security and love. William watched his daughter contentedly as they sat down to eat. He didn't need to say much. The silence conveyed everything: peace, protection, and pride in how Amelia had handled the situation at the mall. The girl felt each bite wash away the weight of the day, replacing it with gratitude and simple joy. The world outside seemed distant, and inside there was only care and presence. During dinner, Amelia shared her feelings without going into painful detail, and William listened attentively. He reinforced the importance of trusting oneself and valuing those who truly deserve respect. The woman at the mall still lingered in his memories, but now the episode seemed smaller, diluted by the warmth of the home and his father's affection. Every shared laugh and lighthearted conversation strengthened the feeling of security and love. And so, between plates of home-cooked food and the soft light of the fireplace, Amelia realized that peace could be built even after a difficult day. Dinner wasn't just a meal. It was a silent embrace, a confirmation that at home, protection and affection prevail, preparing the heart for life to teach its next lessons with lightness and hope. In the days that followed, the blonde woman from the mall began to reflect deeply on her actions. Alone in her home, she revisited every harsh word she'd said to Amelia and felt a weight on her chest that she'd never felt before. Anger and pride gave way to a quiet shame, and with it, the first spark of change emerged. She realized that treating someone poorly because of their appearance or skin color not only hurts the other person, but also diminishes the person making the judgment. She began to question her life and daily attitudes, recalling situations in which she could have been more empathetic. Each thought was a painful but necessary reflection, and she felt motivated to become a better person. She understood that apologies weren't enough. Real action and transformation were needed. Amelia, even without knowing it, was already inspiring concrete change in another life, showing that courage and dignity speak louder than words. The impact of William's intervention and the example of respect he set began to take hold. She decided she wanted to redeem herself, not out of obligation, but because she realized she had wasted opportunities to be kind and human. Her feelings of regret mixed with a desire to learn, demonstrating that even the hardest hearts can open when confronted with example and truth. And while the woman began to plan small actions to change her behavior, Amelia lived her daily routine on the farm with a light heart, not fully realizing the extent of her impact. The cycle of pain and humiliation gave way to a silent learning process, and something new was born. The hope that respect, empathy, and love could spread, touching lives in unexpected ways. News of what happened at the mall spread quickly throughout Silver Valley. People began talking not only about the humiliation, but especially about how William handled the situation. The respect, calm, and firmness with which he defended Amelia became an example for everyone in the town. On the streets, in cafes, and even at City Hall, his gesture was hailed as a lesson in empathy, courage, and dignity. William didn't seek fame or recognition. His goal was to teach and protect. Even so, the impact of his actions spread, showing that an act of true love can inspire an entire community. People began to reflect on their own actions, realizing that hasty judgments could be harmful and that respect for others wasn't dependent on status or appearance. Amelia watched all this with quiet pride. She understood that what seemed like a mere protective gesture to her had a greater impact than she imagined. Her father not only defended her, but also changed mindsets, transforming a painful experience into a collective learning experience. It was proof that firm values, consistency, and unconditional love can transform more than just individual hearts. And as the farm continued its peaceful routine, the entire town began to be inspired by that example. William demonstrated without raising his voice that character and empathy are worth more than any wealth or status. What began as a humiliating moment now served as a reminder to all. Respecting and valuing others is true greatness. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere in Silver Valley seemed lighter. People talked about William's lesson, how Amelia, even so young, had been an example of courage, and about the woman who decided to change. Love and empathy triumphed over prejudice, showing that, even in the face of unfair behavior, it's possible to transform pain into learning and respect. The entire town was beginning to understand that positive attitudes create lasting impacts. Amelia walked through the farm fields, feeling the wind on her face and the warmth of the strong sun. She knew that experience had been difficult, but she also realized it had been important. Every loving gesture from her father, every firm and dignified word had shown her that facing injustice with courage and kindness is always the most powerful choice. The prejudice she felt at the mall faded in the face of the affection and respect that now permeated her life. The woman who humiliated Amelia began to visit the town differently, more respectfully and conscientiously. Small changes in her behavior became noticeable, showing that the lesson had been absorbed. William observed everything calmly, knowing that the greatest lesson was not only for the woman but for everyone who witnessed the story. The love that guided her actions had overcome ignorance and prejudice, spreading a message of hope. And that evening, as the sun disappeared behind the hills of Silver Valley, Amelia and William sat on the porch, silently gazing at the horizon. The girl's heart felt light. The world seemed more just, and the certainty that love, respect, and empathy can change lives lingered in every breath. A cycle of learning and transformation had been completed, but the story left a subtle loop. The impact of love continues, even in small, everyday gestures. And in the end, it all came down to a simple truth. Love and respect always overcome prejudice. That girl who was humiliated showed everyone that dignity can't be bought. It's carried within the soul. This story is a reminder that every gesture, every word, can change someone's day or even their life. If this message touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, like it, and comment below what you learned from this story. Because stories like this still need to be told. Until the next video.